Okay, so next up, I'm probably going to tackle the top bar. Let's get that looking more like the actual application. So if we bring in the application here, you can see we've got effectively 4 buttons, I believe. We've done the text, that's close enough to looking the same, but now we want to get these buttons in. So with this being a scalable app, and you want to really do vector, I'm going to use SVG. We're not going to use like PNGs, they're raster images. We're going to draw these in vector, which means they can automatically scale to any size you like without losing any detail. So let's just take a look at the top bar at the moment, and let's just clean up these colors now, and let's make them more accurate. So the color is E5. So there's the same color now. And we'll just change these because these are now buttons. So these colors will change when we add the buttons. So the first button we will do is going to be this sort of monitor view. And we're going to draw this in any SVG package. You can use Illustrator, Inkscape. The one I personally use is Affinity Designer. It's really good software. Nice and clean, nice and fast, and most importantly, it works cross-platform the same. Inkscape is terrible on Mac, and Illustrator is much more expensive. So Affinity Designer, you buy once and you have it. So we're just going to use that for now. Let's just make a new document. Let's just leave these as what they are, 50mm by 50mm, because it's going to scale anyway, so this won't really matter too much. And what we want to do now is draw, say, a monitor with a stand and a little base. So it's fairly easy design. I'm just going to click the rectangle tool, draw a rough rectangle, fill it with black for now. And then in the size down here, I'm going to do the width of 16 and a height of 9. So it's a 16 by 9 monitor size. Then I'm going to lock the proportions here. I'm just going to scale up, holding shift to keep the proportion the same. And we'll scale up to pretty much full, like that. If we swap this to a stroke in the color and in the stroke size, don't really know what size we want, but if you imagine when we are zoomed out and looking at the icon sort of this small, probably about where you want to be. We just change the align to fill on the inside instead of the midway. Looks a little bit thick now, maybe. I reckon about there. Then we'll just copy and paste this block, reduce it in size, make a little sort of stand roughly there, copy and paste again, and make sort of a thinner base. A little bit thinner on the other one. About that. If we zoomed out now, it doesn't look too far off that icon. That'll do. Let's just select everything. Go to the align button here, align vertically the same, so they're all in line there. And because that's the exact visual we want, we're going to just do layer and expand stroke. And this is now converted them from rectangles to actual solid paths, if you will. So each one's got its own vector point. It's no longer an adjustable stroke. You can see the stroke's now 0 width. And then we're going to take all them and combine them all using the add function. And now this is just one solid block. If we were to press Command Y, you can see the outline of the path here. And if we were to select the path tool, you can see the individual dots. That's now made the shape. Now this one doesn't really have any smooth edges. It is definitely just a sharp monitor. If we zoom out though, that's pretty much the monitor design. So that's one image. Let's just do one last thing. Select this, go align, and vertically and horizontally center it to this 50mm canvas. So if we moved it, say, way out the way, and then went align, if this is the only object and you click align, it will align it to the artboard, effectively this white background. That's the monitor done nice and easy. Let's just do File, Save As, go into the solution, make a new folder, let's call it Assets, and then Images, and then in here we will just, in fact, it's not save, is it? It's File, Export. We'll do SVG, Export, and we will call this Monitor. That's one done. Let's just delete that. And the next one we'll do is a key lock pad. Again, similar thing, just a rectangle, rough size. This time we'll fill it like that. And if we go into these shapes here, we've got a donut. We'll make a donut roughly that size. And then we will change the hole radius to be a little bit thinner. And I think this to actually be a bit smaller. A little bit bigger. Hole radius a bit smaller to make it thicker. And that doesn't look far off. The keypad, I think it has slightly smaller. Yeah, it's close enough, and now we just need a little hole in the center where the key would go. So we'll do the same thing again. Let's just align them horizontally center. Let's merge them into one shape. We'll get a rectangle, draw a little keyway, just turn it white a minute so we can see it. We will select both and align it horizontally center. I will hold shift as we drag so it stays in line now. And we'll just position this by eye. I'd say about there. Now instead of leaving this white, let's just select both and do a subtract to cut the hole out in the shape. So now it doesn't exist, it's just a hollow shape. And you'll notice on this as well, it also has just slight rounded edges on the keypad lock itself. In Affinity Designer, it has a corner tool here. So we'll click that, select the 4 corners holding shift. And now we can simply click and drag the corners and you can see we can round them. So we'll make them a little bit rounded. The keyway can do the same for that, I guess. Let's just select all 4, make them a little bit rounded so it looks nice. And these just go straight into the bolt. So I think that's it for the lock. And to me that looks close enough. So one last step again. Select the lock, do the align horizontally and vertically to the canvas, and then export this one as SVG. Call this one lock. And you can see how easy it is to really make most designs if you get used to the basic tools. Next one is just kind of what I would have thought is export. Yep, export settings. So that's just going to be a rectangle and an arrow. So similar again, let's just draw a rectangle, pretty much the full size. Hold shift to keep it the same proportions, turn it black, do a stroke, and that looks about right. To do an arrow, hold shift and drag a square, flip it round to be a fill, and then you can rotate it 45 degrees, get another rectangle, roughly over halfway, select both and subtract, and there's your arrow head. And then let's just put a body on it, roughly like this. Select both of those two, align vertically center, combine the two together, rotate 45, and then you can see we want this probably to be exactly on the line. That's where I'm guessing this kind of is. It flows exactly on the line. So if we just drag it away, give it a bit of a color, select both and do the align to the right and the top. And change that back to black. Actually, leave it a color a minute. It's already falling pretty much central. So there's the center line. So it's already pretty much the length of what the other one is. So now we just need to do a sort of cutout around the rectangle. So to do that, we first need to convert this to a shape because it's currently a stroke. So if we were to say draw a box like that and then exclude, you can see it's going to make the shape a new shape. That's not what we want. We want the actual outline in this case to already be a shape. So we'll do layer, expand stroke, and you can see then it converts the inner line to part of the shape. Do the exclude on them two, and now it's chopped it away nicely. We want to go slightly down though before we do that. It's not quite even. And we could do this by setting the shape here to exactly square. So we have now a perfect square there. Select both of these shapes, align them left and top, and then just change that color. And if we scale this now with shift, so it scales evenly, you can see we'll always hit the exact same point. So it's like even split. Select both shapes, subtract, and there we have the basic shape. So if we zoom out, bring this one in, and you can see that pretty much looks like that. So I will just make this slightly nicer though, because it's quite harsh with all the sharp edges, and we'll just use the corner tool again. I think we'll just select everything and just give the whole lot the same kind of smooth edge. Maybe not quite that much, that's a bit extreme. But let's just give it, I reckon, just a little bit of an edge. Just like that, so it's a bit softer. Save this one. Call this one, oh, not save again, file export. SVG, and let's call this one export. And then one last one, and we can get to doing the actual Avalonia stuff. So the last one's a cog. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teeth. This one's nice and easy in Affinity Designer because one of the custom shapes is literally a cog. So just select near the top, hold shift, drag roughly down, and I actually know what we did, 1 second. We forgot to do on the export. We'll select all the elements, align it. So before we can align this one, select them, and we have to group them first, which is layer group. And now, why has that got something up there? Luckily, it's just the outline box. So if we align that, it still aligns perfectly fine. So that's that one done. And we've got to re-export it now as an SVG as the export. Right, back to the cog. We've got the rough size, and now we've got these special variables up here that we can just change the properties of the cog. Got 7 teeth. The whole radius was quite thin on this design. It's pretty much right near the edge. So I'd say about that, to be honest. Notch size, you can change this. And again, I'd say it's almost flat down, so they're quite tight cogs. So I'd say the notch size is about there. The tooth size, so top, inner radius there can actually come down to make the cogs wider, and then reduce the hole a bit down. So I'd say we're not far off there. We just zoom out. You can see we're similar now. Maybe spread the cogs out a bit and apply a radius to the inner part of the cog, and I think we'd be there. And maybe make the hole slightly smaller. So about there. Notch size a little bit wider. There we go. Let's just align that central. Use the corner tool, and we only want to select the inner parts of the cog. That's the only part to me that looks like it's got a slight bit of radius on, like that. And we'll just do a little bit of a curve. And I'd say that is about the same as that. So it's good enough now to make it look really similar. We can now do File, Export on this last one. And let's call this cog. So that's it for Affinity Designer for the moment. So if we jump back in, what have we got to do? We've got to make these, what are currently rectangles. Probably want to make them buttons. So if we just do a button, I always forget the tab. Try tab again. There we go. Double tab. I can enter. Now we have a button that you can see there. Width 50. And then inside here, let's use, actually, that's a good point. How do we do SVG? SVG image. Oh, don't tell me it doesn't support SVG. Binding converter to a bitmap. Play button. I think that SVG support would be useful. Ah, great. I don't think it actually supports it natively. But Skia SVG Avalonia. Let's see where this is at. Project website. Okay, so obviously Avalonia is based on Skia. That's the graphical thing behind, and Skia supports SVG. And it mentioned Avalonia somewhere. Here we go, Avalonia UI. Ah, nice. So there's a package at least to add support for SVG. And then it gives us this SVG or image control with an SVG image inside. Okay, so let's try that. .NET add package we've got to do. So we go to the project folder, just go up one, type cd space, drop the folder in, go into the folder. We can then paste .NET add package avalonia.svg.skia. With that done, will Rider update itself? It looks like it is. And then we should be able to, might have to restart this. We should be able to do this. So in place of the button or inside the button, we'll do assets, and we have them here. Assets, images. We'll have to change all of these to Avalonia resources to use them as an image. Click OK to that. Double check it's set. Yep. So now we should be able to go SVG image, assets, images folder, and the first one will be monitor.svg. The UI does not seem to be updated anymore. Okay, let's just try and run it. And let's see if this actually works. Okay, so it's working. There's the button. I know we've got to work on this visual a little bit. But the UI isn't updating. Let's just close the rider. Restart rider. And yeah, it appears the UI is completely broken. Great. Right, let's just open Affinity Designer a moment. We might have a bug here now. Open monitor, export. Let's just make a PNG for now. 128 pixels is fine. Call it monitor. Let's just change this SVG image back to a regular image with PNG. Make this PNG an Avalonia resource. Press F5. There we go, the UI is back. Does this update? Yes, it does. Okay. So if we leave the image there, SVG image, just try once more, and SVG, and then, yep, UI is froze again. So if we do comment that out, uncomment that, oh yeah, there we go, and the UI is instantly updating again. So it looks like this Skia, specifically the Avalonia UI, has a bug. So we're going to have to report it as an issue. I can also link, I'll do this after the video actually, and then link the video as the actual error so they can see this live, see if I'm doing anything wrong or see if it's a bug somewhere else. You guys let me know as well. Do you get this UI freezing issue or does it work for you? So for now, we're just going to have to roll with PNGs, but we have the SVGs ready, and when the bug's fixed, we can always jump back to actual SVGs. So let's just re-export all these as PNGs as well. And 128 because of the size is fine for now. So that done, and we already have the monitor. So in here now, we want the PNG, 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 PNG. Make sure they are Avalonia resources. I don't know why they're red. Whether that's normal or what, but looks like an error visual, but not got a clue why the colour's red. Presuming that's normal. We now have a monitor. We can, in fact, we'll style these buttons after actually. So the next one will be grid.column as 1. Chuck that back there. And then it was the lock next. I think it was called lock. Yep. And that's not updating now. UI's froze. Have we just got build once maybe because it's an Avalonia resource? There we go, that's updated. We have the lock. So I think we just have to compile once to get that to update. And now it's updating again. And then the other side, we want to chuck in the export and then settings. So copy that. I will remove this comment out for now. We know what to do. We'll remember SVG image. So I'll leave it in 1 actually. So we don't have a load of comments repeating themselves. And these two here are just column 3 and 4. So column 3, column 4, and it is export and settings. So there you go. And not settings, sorry, cog. So now the UI looks just like that, other than this horrible grey background. So for that, we need to style the button. I can't remember how we style again. I've only done it once, I think. I think we've done it once. Oh yeah, style. Oh, that was it. Yeah, you can embed them inside of any part of the application and do a selector. So for this, what it looks like we have is a predefined background color and then a hover color that we need to change. And this app has sort of a transparency effect and no real other visual. So we'll probably make ours grow slightly or something so it looks like our buttons normally grow. Let's start by removing the colors. So these buttons, this kind of style of button, is only used in that top menu. It's not used anywhere else, that exact style. So the top title bar here has this grid. So we'll chuck our styles in the grid here. So grid.styles, and now inside of here, style is it? Setter or selector? I think it's selector. Button, then setter, property, background, value, transparent. Nice, and this is what I love about this kind of UI here. It updates as we are doing it, so you can even get the hover effects. So you can see there now, there's no color when it's not hovered. We want to do now a hover to remove the color on hover as well. I actually have no idea how to do that. Hover. I will go red when hover. Pseudo classes. Border.pointer over. But oh, look at that. They've actually got a button. I don't know what the hell that is. Template content presenter. Involves changing properties of inside of a controller. Ah, cool. So it looks like maybe this is sort of applying, I'm going to guess, it's going to apply these values instead of it to the button, it's going to apply it to the text block inside of the content presenter, which is inside of the button, is what I'm going to guess. Doesn't really tell me anything else. But for now, let's just... oh, where's it gone? Poop. Go back one. Let's just try this. So, style selector. So we've got to do another selector, like CSS here. And this time, button, colon, is and not impressed. It was pointer something. Pointer over. So I'm going to presume pointer over works for button as well. Let's just leave it at that for now. Let's see. And then copy the background. Let's just do it red so we can see if it's working. No. Also got one error here. One warning. Canvas.top is not going to do anything. There. Don't know how that made its way in there. Right then, what were we on? Style, here we go. So this pointer over isn't working. So let's try this template content presenter thing here. So / oh, look at that, IntelliSense, / template. Oh, nice, it's fully IntelliSense content presenter. Does that work? Oh yeah, there we go. So there's the hover now. So we just want to remove it to transparent as well. There we go. So now we have just a button that does nothing. It's just flat. Next up, we want to, on hover, I want to grow this slightly. So we should, if it's anything like WPF, there should be like transforms or render transforms or something. See if they've got that. Render, yes, render transforms. Doesn't really give me much info. Render transform, transitions. Render transforms are applied like CSS. There we go. So just literally render transform and then, yeah, rotate. So it's going to be like rotate, scale, skew maybe. So it's literally like WPF. So on the button hover, let's try this then. Setter, property, render transform, nice. Value, and in WPF, we just do scale. Let's just do scale 2. Oh, yeah, there you go, working already. Bit crazy. Let's do like 1.2, maybe even less. 1.1, a little bit more. 1.11, there we go. That's a bit harsh though. Can we animate that? Animations. Keyframe animations, no. Transitions. Yep, so similar to CSS, transitions. What do we do? Set the property on hover, and we basically just add transitions with opacity. Well, we want to do opacity as well anyway, because we want them to turn lightly grey. So on hover, let's just add setter, property, opacity, value 0.5. There we go. So now they turn similar colour, if not the same colour to them. I think they may be slightly darker than that. Try 0.6. So the only thing left is I want really that kind of grow to be animated. So we did transitions and then double transition for opacity. I don't want to animate the opacity, I just want to animate the scale. We got any examples of that? Transform, bet that's it, transform operations. Oh, look there, transform, transitioning render transforms. So we want to transform operation transition, render transform, so that's what it'll animate, and then duration. Cool, so let's just type that in to, where are we going to put that? Oh, it's a transition. Can we put transitions in styles? I hope so. Transition. Oh, don't tell me we can't put transitions in styles. Style, transition. Surely we can embed transitions in styles somewhere. I think we've been on that one. Ah, there. Yes. Transitions can be defined in any style using a setter with transitions, and then they just put the transition inside. Nice. So we can keep that all as a part of the style. I presume we apply that to just the selector, not the hover one, so it'll be this one. And we will want a setter property transitions. And then inside that, we put the actual transition. And then inside that, I can't remember what it is now. There we go. Transform operation transition. And where was that? There. Property render transform and duration. Property render transform. Duration, hours, minutes, seconds. Let's do, I don't know, 0.2 seconds or something. Does that work? Nope. Okay. Let's copy this whole example for now. See if we can just get it working. Just chuck that anywhere. There. Oh yeah, look, the rectangle's rotating animated. So that's working. Okay, let's change the border to a button. There we go. It's got that background color that we need to change. Actually, it should be. Oh yeah, on hover, the transparent hover here at the minute is getting rid of the background. So let's do. That's got no content, has it? Let's change this to scale so we can actually see what's going on. 1.3. I have no idea what's going on here with this. Copy and paste. Ah, that hasn't been updated to button. And that button transform, we'll need that on. And now it's gone transparent. There's no text. Oh, scale 0. Scale 1. There we go. Yeah, so you can see it's scaling and it's not animating. So I wonder if button just doesn't support animation. Probably the case. Which will kind of be, unless I bet there's just a way of. It'll be something to do with the property here, or the fact that we're not scaling the render transform. See this render transform here? I bet we're not scaling it because of this thing, the content presenter. And that is the selector. I wonder if that can just literally go on there. And let's just chuck that back to column 0 for the first one. No, that's now not updating the UI, so that's not right. I don't know where else we'd apply that transition, because, or do you do it like that, maybe? Oh, there you go. There's the animation back. So now we've got animation. So we have to do specifically the transition thing on yet another style where the selector is the button, but with the template set to content presenter, and then do the transition like that. Yeah, there we go. That's quite cool. It helps that I just know WPF and I kind of know how things work in the background, that I've just completely guessed all that. I've seen this content presenter thing, which I'm still not sure what it does, but it clearly, as part of the selector, works, because this is the selector here. So it allows you to sort of select that these things are going to be applied to, I guess, this content presenter, which the button is. So when you put things inside the button, like this image here, when you just put it inside of this button element, this will be the content presenter content. So that works. No idea if I've done it the right way, but that's working. So I'm going to take that one as a win. And now we have, hopefully, a menu bar that looks very similar. So the settings button is a little bit thinner. Our buttons are actually larger. Yeah, our buttons are a little bit larger, now we can see. They look right that way, like the settings one looks right. But then they've done those quite a bit smaller. So they purposely oversized the setting. So for that, let's just override, where are we? The padding on, in fact, we'll change the padding on all of them in the style, because most of them are the other size. I think I did a padding somewhere. Oh, we haven't even set the padding yet. So it's just using the default padding. So we'll set the padding of the button. Try 15. Whoa, that's quite a lot. 10. Actually, yeah, it probably just won't be 15. Not quite. 12. We haven't got as much padding left and right, or margin left and right, maybe. So that will be top and bottom, left, or that's the other way around. Left and right, then top and bottom. So that gives the gap the same there. Top and bottom. Now we get, oh, I know why. We've set the width. Or so. We actually had probably fine there with 12. And we want the widths of the button, which actually can be part of the template, because we don't need to set the width on each button. We can set that as part of the template now, so we're not repeating ourselves as many times. And setter, property, width, value, 50. So now if we do 40, oh, I see that's reducing that. Left and right 0, top and bottom there. So actually, why don't we, instead of trying to do padding, why don't we just set the width of the image? Yeah, we can. So we'll set the width of the image instead inside the button. And we will just remove the padding. So the width of the button can be now right, which is what that looks like. I think 45 is about the right spacing. And now let's try and select that inner image. I'm presuming it's button, and then inside button image. That's how CSS works. Setter, property, width, and value 1. Yes, there we go. So now we can independently just change the direct size of the icons. So you can see these are maybe, that's too much. Still too much. There we go, that's very close. You can see our lock icon is a bit wider, and that is, but that's fairly close. I'd say that's pretty acceptable. And I think the main difference there is our icons are simply a different size when we've drawn them. I don't think they filled the icons. You can see that's a little bit big there still. And the setting icon's actually a bit smaller, as we mentioned. But to be honest, I kind of like ours anyway. I think that's close enough that I won't bother tweaking that much more. So that's the buttons now ready. And we've got a little effect. And there's, I've got just a plain effect. So ours are a little bit nicer, I'd say. But that's the buttons done there. So we have the top menu done. We have the sidebar mostly done. We were going to come back to the arrow and this moving and this bar at another point, which we still will. We've got these down here, which they don't style right. Let's just make that hover effect work now to the same. And actually, let's just capture that color. Grab that color there. And then if we find the int LRA, there we go. We have a button with styles here. Yep, so now we need another selector, similar to what we just did. Selector button, colon, pointer, over, was it? I think it was, / template, content presenter, set a property background value is that color. There we go. And now we just need to change the text to stay white, I think. Yep. And we've also got this A button we could now redo with, is it color? Can't remember the foreground. I think it's foreground. I haven't got IntelliSense though. Huh. Not sure why I've lost IntelliSense there. Press F5, see if it still works. I'm able to resolve regular property or attach property foreground on presenter content presenter. So maybe the foreground's on everything but the content presenter. So let's duplicate that and do on pointer over but not inside the content presenter. And then change that to foreground. Nope, so it's not that. I reckon it would be inside of here still then. But it's not called foreground. We'd have to probably pull up the source code to the button style. But is it going to be something like text color? I don't know. No, hang on, I know how we find it out in a way. Foreground, red. And do we just have to remove this a minute so the UI updates? Yeah, so if you set foreground on the button, it changes the button text. And then it goes black on hover. So it says foreground, red. Well, the question is, how do we set the foreground? I still think I was right with the pointer without that. So just, why would foreground not work? See, because this works, but it's not working, if you know what I mean. This works as in, it doesn't complain, but it also does nothing. So what other, I don't know what else. It should be content presenter, surely. Content control? No. See, then that just turns white. Okay, so in styles, selects all content presenter controls inside of the button template. Okay, selects all button controls. Selects all buttons with red. Selects all buttons with focus. I wonder if there's just something like for a workaround for now, something like an importance. Source text block. I wonder if it's also, if it defaults to a text block if you don't. Oh yeah, of course, because we haven't, might be that. We haven't specified in the button, when we've made the button, we've just directly put strings in here basically, so this is just a string. So the button will have in the source code somewhere in here where it converts the content that we apply, if it's just say a string, and converts it to a certain type. And I'm guessing it's going to convert that to a text block maybe. I wonder if we can just do like text block dot foreground maybe. Colon pointer over, which is what we need. Template content presenter. Oh yes, there we go. That's now working. So it is doing what I thought it would do, which is if you pass just a string to a button, it converts the string to a text block. And then we're setting the text block's foreground color to red. Nice. That was completely random and on the verge of giving up there, but that seems to be working. So now, let's just take a look, see if that looks right. So we've got them buttons how we want them. Those we fixed, they look now the same. If we pull this over, the same. And that one just wants a SVG image, or a PNG in this case, adding. Might as well just quickly do that. So we just delete that, and there's actually a triangle tool as well. So we can just do a triangle, rotate, change to black, and copy paste. Make two. It's like that. So it looks like they want to be slightly bigger. There we go. Export that as a SVG first, because we do want to get the SVGs working. Export that as double arrow. And then in where we just got the word A, we can just do an image with a path. Is it path no source? Of assets, images, double arrow.png. Close that. And we have to set the asset to an Avalonia resource. And then I think sometimes you just have to build to turn it into a resource file. There we go, we've got a massive, massive icon now. So let's set for now, let's just set the height's probably the important factor to this. And what height is it? It's like bigger than the other button anyway. Probably 20 again. 25, something like 25. So we just set the corner radius to like 30, it's plenty big enough. I think we might as well set the width to what we want it. And the height to what we want it. It's going to be easier in this case to force. It's always going to be a circle, which is what we want. But that circle is too big by a long stretch. So I reckon it wants to be 30, 30. So now the height of the image, I think, will be constrained if we delete the height. It's constrained by this. There we go. So now we've got padding we can control it with. Perfect. So that keeps it central. There we go. It's much closer. That's a better way of doing it. So we've done the button where we've made the corner radius the same as the width and the height. And then we've put a slight padding inside. And the margin is just for this space here. And then just the image as is, with a margin on the left of 5 just to offset the image so it's actually central, because our specific design would do that otherwise. It would be, that's technically center of the button, but because of how the button's physically made in the PNG, we want to just nudge it like that. So that now has a lot of similarities with the loudness meter. The top bar is pretty much perfect, I'd say, and I even like ours a little bit better. The buttons there are now fixed, so we have the arrow. And the only thing we really need to do now is submit a link to this video to show the bug where the SVG, the UI effectively in Rider completely freezes if you use the SVG, which is basically unusable for us because we need that UI. But hopefully you've learned how to do a little bit of drawing there, make some SVG files, and we've had to play with some animations and styling. But so far, yeah, this Avalonia is really holding up nicely. It's got very few bugs, and it's so easy to make UI for. If you have any feedback on these tutorials, or you need any more assistance, jump on our Discord or leave comments in these videos. So that's it for this one, and I'll catch you in the next.